Hey everyone, today we've got a list of about 20 changes for patch 9.8 which will drop in a week's time. For once though, instead of everything getting nerfed, most of these are buffs actually. 15 of them are power increases to make lesser played champions better, so that's pretty cool. Just so you know as well, Club is giving away some skins this week based on the world songs. These are the ones that you can win if you play on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, plus the normal coins and stuff as well. It's also qualifier time, so the MVPs in my club will be entered into a King of the Rift thing next time, and I'll be rewarding those who make it as well. So to join my club, there is a link in the description, by the way. We're going to start with probably the biggest meta change. I think that will actually shake a few things up. So Zedd is getting nerfed. His Q damage is lowered by 10 every rank, and his W cooldown increased by 2 seconds at every rank. Now, these are undoing some of the stuff in 9.4, by the way. The damage is lowering back down to what it was before, but it's actually going to be lower since the ratio before was lowered by 10% back then on top of that. The cooldown is going to be back to worse as well. It used to be 22 to 14, and now it's going to be 22 to 16 after these nerfs. All those buffs in 9.4 meant that to compensate, they actually took away the bonus AD from the takedowns on your ultimate as well, though. So it does mean that you keep the better attack speed per level and the recast on your shadow range. That is better. Apart from those two things, though, the cooldown is worse on the shadow than before. Your Q does less damage than before, and you lose the AD from your ultimate. Zedd has been really strong, but unless I'm an idiot, which I could be, but unless I'm an idiot, he seems to be worse now than before the buffs in 9.4. That makes zero sense because he was buffed in 9.4 for being too weak in the first place and needed a little bit of love, so we kind of back to square one and actually even worse. Next up are a few of the biggest buffs. So the first one we're going to look at is a buff to Fuhrer. Your W is going to crowd control for longer, it does more damage, and also your E has way more attack speed on it, and it costs less mana. The W is pretty nuts because it's either slowing and lowering their attack speed for 2 seconds now, or it's going to stun for that long instead. That is obviously really good, but the E buff means that you're going to get off 2 attacks basically straight away, which is decent damage, but it also is a very fast way to stack up Conqueror member as well. Fuhrer is struggling a little bit at the moment, but these are both buffs for lane and also for scaling, and if she can get through that lane phase easier, then she will become way stronger, and Fuhrer should become really good in 9.8. It does kind of seem insane, but there is a buff here as well to Bramble Vest and to Thornmail to triple the Grievous Wounds duration to 3 seconds. Now, this is kind of like #1 counter to Fuhrer, right? Because she can't heal properly from Vitals or Ultimate or her Life Steal. That is going to make it way more annoying to deal with for everybody, but what I'm saying though is that it might offset some of the boosting power to Fuhrer, so we're going to have to see. For AD carries as well, this is awful because if you hit a tank now, it cuts your healing from Life Steal and everything, and now you have to wait 3 seconds before you can be healed properly from a support or Life Steal or minions or anything. The other item getting buffed is Storm Razor, so the energized effect boost is better and the slow decays over a longer time now. So that means your Fleet Footwork, your Rapid Fire, your Shiv, they'll all be slightly better if you pick this up as well. Slow also means that you're going to be able to kite a little bit easier with this when you proc it, but honestly not that many people are buying it right now anyway, and for somebody like Kaiser who does actually buy it, it's not even that amazing of a buff. There are 2 other champions that I do want to mention in this biggest buff section, and the first is Amumu. These are pretty big actually, and by the way, as we get through this video, you're going to notice a lot of tanks are being buffed in 9.8. So targets are going to take more true damage from your passive now, which will help you or your team kill them as long as they're magic. You'll also be able to Q more often, a 4-second less cooldown rank 1, which is really good, and a small quality of life thing as well. If they dash away, you're going to follow them. You aren't going to max your Q first anyway, so that is 4 seconds off until like mid game at least when you start to max it, which makes you more useful in fights, but it's also not as punishing if you miss it, since it's kind of your only way to get into a fight. Obviously the passive damage is great because it's just more damage, right? And who doesn't love more damage? But I'm kind of curious how this quality of life thing will work out with the Q. If you hit like an Ezreal or something like that and the arcane shifts away, you're actually going to follow him as well and end up with him, so you can follow up properly and use your ultimate and lock him in place. It also looks like our buffs for Blitzcrank are back on the PvE now. The shield is going to be better because it uses max mana instead of a percentage of your current, so it doesn't matter if you're low mana already. Normally after you full combo as well, by the time you're low enough to proc that, you are lower on mana, so this is a really good change to survive a bit longer in fights. The ultimate change though is making him way more useful in fights and to provide a bit more damage. The old passive is out now, no random shocking and missing some CS. The new passive gives you damage on your auto attacks, but it has a 1-second charge time between them, by the way. At the very least, when you combo somebody now, right, you're going to have your Q damage anyway, took them in, the passive auto damage when you E them to knock them up, and then the ultimate active as well. So basically you're getting 100 damage plus some AP plus some mana damage added onto your combo at level 6, which is really good. Let's hop into our nerf style though. So they are targeting a lot of different champions. So they've already had the Z1 and now I've got some more. Kayle is getting her AD lowered, her armor lowered, her attack speed ratio lowered, and her passive ranks are now based on Kayle's level rather than skill points. I don't really think this is going to be enough, but her most important base stats are being lowered, so she'll do less damage, attack less often, and take more damage. I actually don't know how big the other part is. Now, if you play Kayle, let us know how often you get a skill elixir, but basically, you can fast track the upgrades right now and get to OP Kayle quicker with Kleptomancy. At the moment, it works on skill points, so if you get the free one from Klepto, then you can get your level 11 upgrade at level 10 and level 16 at level 15, which means you're stronger earlier into the game and you spend less time scaling. It might make a big difference, but she's still going to be way too strong once she does hit late game level 11 and level 16, which I think is really good for solo queue still when games don't end that quickly, and that is why the new Kayle is just so good. Morgana is getting 2 nerfs though, so her QAP ratio lowered by 15% and her EAP ratio lowered by 30%. It's pretty big for mid game and to late game as well. Morgana's mid game is more for the mid lane, but the late game especially for both support and mid lane. The Q is kind of turning it into a little bit less about the damage, but more about the root, which kind of makes sense, right? That is what she should be doing anyway. The shield though is pretty big because it's easier to break now, it'll block less damage, and you have to time it a bit better. In the lane phase, it's not going to make that much difference. Even in mid game, it probably won't either. One item is not going to be that huge, but more than that, and you're probably going to feel it a fair bit. Last nerf is to an item. So Build Wood Cutlass is going to be 100 gold more expensive to 1600, and the Blade Ring King is going to go up to 3300 to kind of match that as well. It is a nerf to Blade, but Gunblade, by the way, who also uses Cutlass in the build path, that total gold will stay the same, so it is not nerfing Gunblade, just Blade. It can get you a lot of kills with 100 damage on the active and slow to start fights as well, so to be fair, it is probably actually deserved, but it sucks for some champions like Vayne who are going to rush it. Next section for us is a tweak. So to coup de grace, right? Damage increased to 8% from 7%, but you no longer gain AD or AP for 10 seconds when you get a kill or assist. I actually really want to know whether you even knew that was a thing. So be honest, by the way, as well. Leave it in a comment though whether you knew they actually gave some AD or AP after a takedown or not. It looks pretty good because the damage amp is up, and it is a buff there as well. To the first person that you fight at lower health, you will do 1% more damage there. The thing is, if you get the kill or assist on the first person, the next person you fight, you'll do less damage probably with the 9 AD or missing or the 15 AP. Basically, late game, it is probably a straight buff actually, but early game, it's going to be a straight up nerf. So we have some other buffs as well. I said there are a lot of them this patch. These are a little bit smaller, but they're pretty good. So Camille's base attack speed has been increased, and this is a smaller change, a bit strange because it's normally for junglers, right? Attack speed is how junglers clear, and when Riot wants to buff a champion in the jungle but not in the lane phase, they normally do this. Maybe they kind of want Camille to come back a little bit in the jungle. Maybe they want her to CS a little bit easier in the lane phase, who knows? But it's kind of weird considering they deliberately killed this before. Cassiopeia is also getting a little bit of love this patch, with her E costing less mana when you get to rank 5. You do max it again now because they nerfed her Q into oblivion, but it won't make much difference in the lane phase. It's mostly there so you don't run out of mana as much in the first few mid-game team fights when you don't have as many items. Nas actually got a huge change here when you think about it. 30 seconds off his ultimate rank 1, only 90 seconds as well. That is not long at all. You could even transform at this point. You could use it to do some damage and get them like half health, to trade a bit more, then wait a little bit and go again, seriously, to like finish someone off. Like, it's that good. It wouldn't surprise me if we saw more Gnar after this. I think with Grasp, he's already playable, and this makes his laning phase much more dangerous. Jhin also has a few buffs here as well. These are pretty decent. The traps are going to last 3 minutes now as well, which is a pretty long time, especially when the recharge rate gets down to 16 seconds when you get to rank 5. You can put these around everywhere now, but you can use them to protect yourself from ganks early, and then the recharge is only going to be better late game. The ultimate is getting buffed as well, so the damage multiplier based on missing health has been increased. It's just even better at executing people when they get lower health, and this isn't helping if you hit them at high health, but it will if they're low. Now, Kayn is getting his E cooldown lowered to 8 seconds when in Shadow Assassin form, and I'm not looking forward to these at all. This is a really big decrease because it doesn't depend on the rank anymore at all. Before, you would start off at a 21-second cooldown rank 1 until you start to max it out, which would lower it to 13 eventually, but you max it last. Realistically, as soon as you transform now, you get a 13-second lower cooldown as soon as you transform. You don't have to touch it with ranks or anything. I think it's going to let him function a little bit more like a Talon, which I think is definitely going to be a really good thing, and his roam roaming is a key part to him, so it just helps that even more. Nautilus has got a few buffs here, and I'm probably going to see him more as like a support than any other lane, but it could actually help him top lane at the same time. So the root has a little bit more to it now. Basically, it's better at every level by 0.25 seconds, but it gets to a max of 1.5 at level 16 instead of level 18. The Q damage is 20 more to start with. Normally maxing it last, you normally don't build AP. You probably could do, but you're probably not going to. But that's 20 damage more in an all-in early, which could help grab a kill, and you pick him to do that, right? Crowd control and kill stuff in the lane phase. Ornn's got a few buffs as well. On his E, the knockup has been increased a little bit and the damage increased by 20 rank 5. So we had a little bit of rework a while ago, and while we've seen him in pro play, we haven't really seen him in solo queue that much at all. Giving him more crowd control can help set things up a little bit, but the damage is the same rank 1, and you won't normally max it until last, I think, in late game team fights. That means that you're going to have a bonus 20 damage, really late game, which is almost useless to be honest. Not likely going to have that massive of an impact. This one, though, is way more than 20 damage, though. Sejuani has a base on her W, an AP ratio, but also a max health ratio, and that is what is getting buffed. That is why her W can also still hurt a lot even when she builds full tank, and now the first swing will do a little bit more, but the second does a big chunk more. Overall, that's 2% of her health added on top, so that's going to be 8% total. If she has 3,000 health, which is not going to be very unlikely with the Warmogs, that is now 240 damage on top of the other parts. That is at least 470 damage with her W, which is a lot for a tank. Another tank getting a few buffs is Singe. The health regen is going to be helping lane a bit more and getting bullied. That's really what it's there for. The slow is getting a decent increase though, and remember that has grounding on it as well, so it's even harder now to run out of it, which you have to because you can't flash or dash or anything, and it's more likely he can reach you and flip you back. Your flip is also your main way to trade with poison, so having 20 mana cost off that to start the lane phase is pretty nice. I'm not sure knocking off 40 mid game will change too much, except maybe you could push a bit quicker if you split push. Finally then, we have even more buffs to Trundle, and this time giving him more damage on his Q and a better slow on his pillar. Trundle doesn't really fit at the moment with all these damage champions flying around, but I guess if Riot does keep buffing tanks and they get really popular, at least the tank counter with Trundle and his ultimate will be in a half decent place and people can use him again. So those are going to be the changes for 9.8. Thank you very much for watching the video until the very end. Let me know what you think, but for now, I'm going to leave you with the robots.